You wanted the best. You've got the best podcast. The hottest podcast in the world. The Chris Voss Show. The preeminent podcast with guests so smart you may experience serious brain bleed. The CEOs, authors, thought leaders, visionaries, and motivators. Get ready. Strap yourself in. Keep your hands, arms, and legs inside the vehicle at all times, because you're about to go on a monster education roller coaster with your brain. Now, here's your host, Chris Voss.
Hi, folks. Chris Voss here from the ChrisVossShow.com, the ChrisVossShow.com. Hey, we're coming here with another great podcast. We certainly appreciate you guys tuning in. Thanks for being here. We've got amazing authors on the show. And the title of the new book is The Birth of the Everyday Real Estate Investor. We're going to be talking about that. Just came out November 1st, 2022. But in the meantime, we want you to go refer the show to your family, friends, and relatives. Go to goodreads.com/Chris Voss. Go to youtube.com/Chris Voss. All those places on the internet, you can find us, LinkedIn, and every place in between. We're going to be talking about real estate today, investing, creating wealth, et cetera, et cetera. You may be interested in creating wealth. Last time I checked, everybody's kind of into that sort of thing these days. We've got Glenn Schwarm and Amber Schwarm on the show with us today. Glenn, do I have the names pronounced correctly on that?
You do, 100%. All good.
There you go. I usually double check that before the show, but we're rushing things on a Monday morning. It's there you go. The new book out is The Birth of the Everyday Real Estate Investor: How Real Estate, Not Stocks, Creates Wealth. It's just came out November 1st. You want to order up wherever fine books are sold. Remember, stay out of those alleyway bookstores because you might get shivved, or you might need a tetanus shot. I stubbed my toe and it's turned into a green infection. But other than that, stay out of those alleyway bookstores. Welcome to the show, Glenn and Amber. Thanks for coming on. We certainly appreciate having you.
Thanks for having us. We're excited to be here.
There you go. And so you've got the new book out, and then you've also doing some things on those interwebages. Give us your .com so people can find those on the interweb, please.
Yep. Right. So we're in a lot of different places, but to keep it really easy, we created a website that has all of our stuff, which is glennandamber.com. And Glenn has two N's on it. So glennandamber.com.
There you go. And what motivated you guys to write this book? What was the proponent for that?
You know, we've been, so 15 years ago, back in 2007, we started investing in real estate. So at the last big recession, right? The last big recession, that's when we started. And so we didn't know any better. We were just $80,000 in credit card debt, and we decided to flip a house. And that has turned out to be about 1,000 houses now, 15 years later.
Holy crap.
Yeah. And a big rental portfolio. And we also have a big education piece where we help other people. And so, you know, a lot of the conversation that we have found is that we relate really well to everyday people, just people that are like, you know, trying to figure out their life, and they have a little bit of money, or maybe they're trying to get ahead. And I've been an entrepreneur my whole life. So that's kind of what inspired us to write the book, was to say, listen, here's kind of our journey. Here's how we did it. Here's the steps we used. Here's how we raised private money. Here's all the different ways we kind of just break it right down. It's a thorough book. And that was kind of the inspiration behind it, was just to tell our story a little bit and say, listen, this is how we did it. If you want to do it too, here's how you can do it.
There you go. So you guys do a lot of work in educating people, helping people create wealth through real estate investing. And then give us an overview of the book. What some of the details, some of the tricks you share inside, just some teasers, if you would.
Gosh, we go over, I kind of tell my original story of kind of how I realized that real estate could build wealth. So I was brought up in upstate New York, we were pretty poor growing up. My dad was a butcher, mom had odds and end job, bus driver, that kind of stuff. Not a lot of money, 4 boys. And we ended up, we took a motorcycle trip in the mid 80s from New York, upstate New York, to Colorado, Pikes Peak. And it was to burn my parents' mortgage because they had paid off their house. So at 14 years old, I'm having this discussion, like, how much you pay for your house, Mom? It was like $12,500. I went, what? And then, and I said, how much was your monthly payment? She's like, $51 a month. I'm like, a month? So, I got thinking, what now? At the time, I remember saying back in the 80s, like, what's your house worth now? And back then, maybe the house was worth $75,000 or something. But I thought, you paid $12,500 for something that's worth $75,000? And then as time has went on, as I got older, I started thinking about that, like, wow, and thought, that's how you build wealth. So what if I had 10 of those? How would I pay for 10 of them? well, I mean, how does rent work? And how does, so that's kind of, in the book, I tell different stories about kind of, we tell kind of how this journey came about, but there was a gentleman a guy that came from Italy in the town I grew up in, and his English was really rough, but he built everything. And he had 50 houses he owned, and a couple hotels. He was playing real life Monopoly while I was playing board game Monopoly as a kid growing up. And I looked at him and said, that's pretty cool. Like, I wonder how we can do that. And really, we fast forward to 2007, and Amber and I connected, and we kind of decided that's what we want to do. So we decided to flip a house, but then the market tanked, right? 2000, we bought the house, and then 2008, everybody tells us that we shouldn't be doing real estate. It's the worst thing in the world. Get out of real estate. And we were already in. We'd already bought a house. We already had 2 more under contract. And we're like, well, let's keep pushing, right?
Yeah.
We were scared to death. Like, we were like, well, we didn't know what he did. People look back now and say, you know why you guys have built so much wealth? You knew when to get in. You guys were so smart. I'm like, we were dead broke. We were $80,000 in credit card debt. Yeah, we're desperate. I'm like, we weren't smart. We were desperate. But we pushed through that fear, and we pushed through ignoring everybody. And I think that right now, Chris, we're moving into a time in society where it's going to happen again. I think it's already today. Right, just about 2 hours ago, I had somebody call me, one of my investors, say, hey, someone told me it's a bad time to get into real estate. I laughed. I said, yeah, but you remember we had this conversation 15 years ago. He's like, yeah, you did.
That's true. That's true. I mean, there's, you buy low, sell high. There's always a bottom to it. When I moved back to Vegas from California, there was an investment portfolio of lawyers who'd bought hundreds of properties that were literally in, HOA bankruptcy when the market had totally crashed and stuff. And they made a killing.
Yeah.
And they made it really interesting killing, if you're familiar with their story in Nevada. They were able to, Nevada has some weird titling laws where the HOA is technically the first on title. And so they literally took over all the properties and wiped the first and second bank holders by paying off the HOA debt, which means they got these properties for like $12,000 or something.
Yeah, I don't think we're going to see the same. People have asked. They ask us all the time, like, "What do you think?" I said, "I don't think this is not the same crash we had in 08. Different." But
so you think it'll be a different crash then, huh?
Very much, because that was all brought on by bad lending. That was all brought on by that was the financial crisis, but it was all based around real estate. Right. Real estate right now is part of it, but it's not the main driver of what's going on. It's not bad lending or fraudulent lending or aggressive lending. It's nothing to do with that. Really, it's a supply and demand issue, and it's really happening right. And interest rates, and the Fed's trying to fix it by raising the rates, and it is slowing it down. Don't get me wrong; it's slowing things down and changing things a little bit. But it's people, because we have based, this is what the book talks about too. We base the whole thing we do is based on fundamentals, right? It's based on people are always going to want to buy a house. They're always going to want to. What are all things they do? They graduate from college. They downsize.
They have babies. They need a bigger place to stay. A lot of people are working from home, so they need that extra room to have an office. We don't try
and build our business. We don't teach our students how to build a business based on the trends. Hey, the market's going down, so let's do short sales. Let's just do subject to deals. Let's just do all these different deals. Now we do all of them, but we use them as a function to just purchase houses that first-time home buyers will buy. We sort of stay in that lane. Every time we seem to get out of that lane, we don't do well. Every time we try to do something else. So that's just our lane, right?
But the interesting thing about real estate is regardless of what the market is at any given time, there's always an opportunity to make money. And I think that there's so many misconceptions about what it takes to get into real estate. Like, for example, that you have to use your own money or you have to have your own money to get started in real estate. So we have that chapter in the book that talks about using OPM or other people's money. There's the misconception that you have to do all of the work yourself, which you actually make more money if you hire it out. So, I mean, that list could go on, all day long. There's so many misconceptions that once people understand, hey, that barrier to entry is not nearly as challenging as I thought it was, and that everyday people can do it. Glenn and I, like, neither one of us have college backgrounds. Glenn still can't read a tape measure to this day. so thank goodness.
I got people for that.
Yeah, exactly. You can hire that out.
I have her for that. I don't need to do it.
But that barrier to entry is not nearly as challenging as people think it is. So with a little bit of knowledge and some guidance, people can literally change their life. And real estate, it's not as volatile as the stock market, which also talks about, the stock market, yes, there's people that like riding that roller coaster. And if you're one of them, God bless you, have fun. But real estate can be like really, really consistent, and it's a really calculated decision.
It's almost
You're not guessing. Yeah, right.
Yeah.
And it's a real long game too. I mean, you like you say, you're not buying the trends. You're not doing that crazy Wall Street stuff.
We do Chris, we talk about how, so we flip house, right? That's we've done close to 1,000 flips. So flipping houses where you make big money and fast, right? You can make, and we talk about how to wholesale houses. We talk about how to wholesaling is when you put a house under contract and you sell that contract to another cash buyer. It's become very trendy in the past 2 years. I mean, a lot of people do it. We were doing it 8-9 years ago before it was so trendy. So we've been doing it for a long time. But that's one way to make some quick money without ever actually owning a piece of property. Then you move into flipping houses where you actually own and flip. And those are, let's call those more of a short-term gain, because you can make $50,000, $100,000, $70,000 on a flip and be in and out of that thing in 5-6 months if you do it right. And then, so that's quick money, but we're real big. We advocate using that to buy rental. So once you flip a couple houses, our book talks about how you flip a couple houses, you learn the fundamentals to become a real estate investor on your own. Now you know how to find houses. You know how to get the money for it. You can turn it into a long-term play. We have over a dozen short-term rentals, Airbnbs. We have too. So we kind of do it all. We talk about all of it in the book. We talk about everything. We break it right down to step by step how we do it.
That's awesome. And you guys also do that on your website and when people work with you as well. Do we get the plug-in for the website?
Let's do that. We do. Yeah, we put on a pretty regular throughout the year. We put on what's called the home flipping workshop, and we charge these $59 to come for 3 full days. They hang out with us. It's Zoom, so it's live. It's not a webcam. It's interactive. I'm on a stage, and we've been doing this since COVID shut us down. We had to go to virtual.
It's been awesome.
Oh, it's been awesome. We have so much fun. We have students all over the country. We have thousands of students now, and I have a blast doing it. It's so much fun. I think we're so good at it because we're also doing it. Like we're live in the field. We're flipping. My company last year did 101 deals last year. So, our company, we know what we're doing there. So I think because we're in it, we can teach it. And as this market is shifting, which it is right now, I always say shift happens, right? That's what I've been telling people. Shift happens. So it's shifting from a seller's market to a buyer's market. And as it's doing that, you have to know, it used to be the past 2 years, you didn't need a coach. You just didn't need one. You didn't need coach guidance because any moron could, and I've met some morons that made some money. I mean, I really met some people. I'm like, you made $100,000. You're a dumbass. How did you make $100,000? I'm like, oh my God.
He says that because you could do like everything wrong and still.
Oh, they made it. I'm like, you bought it for what? You did what? You what? And I hear all these mistakes. Now that's not going to happen. You're not going to be so lucky.
But
now.
that kind of market covers a multitude of sins. Where this kind of market, you have to be a little more careful.
Yeah, you got to be good. That's why we know that our coaching business is good. It's already been exploding because people are like, I realize I need a little guidance from somebody. Here's the difference from somebody who's been through it before. There's a lot of coaches been around for 2, 3 years, 4 years. They're like, oh, I did a bunch of houses. Anybody can make money when the tide's high. Anybody's a wonderful captain in hot water.
When it's doubling and tripling every couple of years.
That's great. Now you got to know. So I think we pride ourselves on the fact that we know. Like we know we've been through this. So it's like we always get to say, this feels really familiar.
Well, that's the beauty of real estate is it's you don't have to be like a scientist. Like to be an entrepreneur that I've been for 35 years, you really have to be. There's a lot of work that's involved, and you got to know a lot of stuff or learn a lot of stuff. With real estate, it's pretty simple and easy for the most part. I mean, the deal working and stuff can get complicated in the variations that you have in the book, but you don't have to go to college for it. Basically, I guess is what I'm trying to say.
And that's the other thing I love about it is, again, that limits that barrier to entry because it doesn't matter if you're young or old. It doesn't matter what race you are. It doesn't matter if you're a male or a female. It doesn't matter. None of that matters. If you've got that drive and that desire and that will to at least learn what you need to learn and to take action, that's probably the biggest thing is to not let that fear hold you back. And that is the thing that holds most people back is fear of, failing, fear of succeeding. That list could go on all day long too. But you don't have to have anything special. Like anybody can do this.
Chris, if you're a lifelong entrepreneur, you know that fear and mindset is the toughest game. And we're kind of talking about before the show, like when you're writing the book and you get to the end, you're like, am I going to make this thing? You're pushing through that last 10% where it's like, this sucks. But usually success is right after that. And so many people don't even get to that first big fear and they don't do it. So our tagline in our coaching company is a real estate of mind. because we believe it's 80% mental and 20% mechanics. And actually at our workshops, we talk about that. Like I give them tools how to help their mindset. Because I tell everybody, I say, if you came for a get rich quick scheme, you're at the wrong place. There's plenty of idiots that'll take your money online. This is real. I say, I'm going to teach you a business plan, and it's hard work. So if you're not ready to work hard, you might want to go. So I say, but it's hard work, but I add this. It's hard work, but it's worth it. It's worth the effort.
Yeah, it's not complicated. Like, the biggest challenge of being an entrepreneur is, well, you have a high failure rate. You have a lot of competition and stuff. I imagine you do in real estate, but I have to innovate something. I have to take an widget. I have to innovate it, and then I got to make it priceable and market stuff, and then I got to keep innovating because the market's going to change if I find a successful model. But real estate is something just about everybody can do. Every human being wants a house or house to live in, start a family in. How much did COVID really change the game of real estate? Because I know a lot of people, we've had a lot of authors and professors on the show have written about how COVID, people, because they're stuck in their home now, they've looked for home expansions and more room and something that maybe will facilitate a home office. And I don't see remote working going away. I see it actually expanding. And it seems like that's actually really creating a lot of demand for homes. And, you live with your spouse originally and you see them maybe, 16 hours a day. If you're lucky, you're 18 with your commute. Now you're stuck in the house together, and you need a little bit more space to get away from them, I suppose. I don't know.
Especially living with me. I want to say before she said it. I wanted to get
coming. It was coming.
I felt that coming. I felt like you cheated right up for that one. I felt like that was going to be.
It's like save a marriage or get a bigger house. What should we do? There you go.
And a lot of people were moving out of big cities too, and into more.
That's true. Yeah.
More neighborhood areas, and that definitely did happen. There are people that are going back into the workforce and not working as home. So I kind of feel like that's going to probably level out some. But
the interest rate thing was the thing that really changed, because the government, they're like, let's lower the interest rates to try and stimulate the economy. Well, man, I don't think they realized the boom that would cause in houses. Listen, we moved from New York, from upstate New York down. We live on the beach now in Florida. We live in the St. Peter area, so we're on the West Coast. And honestly, the interest rate was so cheap when I called for this size of a jumbo loan. I'm like, I don't know, honey, that's a lot of money for a house. I don't know. And I called and they're like, well, it's going to be this much. I'm like, what? He goes, yeah. I go, I could easily afford that. Like, what are you talking about? He's like, yeah, because our rate was 2.875. So many people have that. So I think there's some weird things happening in the market too. Like right now, there's a lot of people that don't want to move. Or they don't need to move, aren't going to move because 90% of people have a 3% or less mortgage rate.
Yeah,
and now
they can't afford
sell,
that.
they have to pick up a 7%, right, or 6%, or they're having to pay a lot of money to buy it down. So that's a dynamic. What we talk about in the book, there's a whole section, I think it's multiple chapters, on motivated sellers, right? So there's 9 different D's that we have as a motivated seller, like death and disease and divorce and decay and dilapidated and downsized and
destination. If somebody has to
destination,
move.
These are things that make people say, I have to move.
I don't necessarily want to move, but I have to move, or I have to get rid of this property.
And that's where the money is. The money is when somebody says, I don't have time. I don't want to go through the process of putting this on the market, letting people come through, because now the market's not so hot. Like people are still buying houses, but it's taking people a month to sell their house instead of 1 minute.
Yeah.
Literally, people are having the first day 100 offers, and that was. We had that in upstate New York. We had some properties with 20 offers. I'm like, what? Like it was insane. But that's not happening now. It's going back to more of a normal market. But motivated sellers, Chris, they've got to sell. And that's a fundamental we base our business on. That doesn't change. People still die. People still get sick. People still have to move. They get downsized. That stuff happens, and now we're going to see more downsizing. We're going to see more of that stuff, more stress in the world.
A lot of layoffs are happening. Open Door just laid off a whole bunch of like hundreds of or thousands of people. 500 people. Yeah, 18%. Like a lot, 18%, I think. So a lot of layoffs are happening.
Yeah, we're going to see more of that, I think, coming up. We'll see in the next year, but I think we're going to see a lot more of that happening, and that creates motivated sellers. And that's where the money is. People don't understand that you have to get narrowly focused on a sector, and for us, it's the motivated seller. That's the sector that we're on, and we're going to see a lot of people that suddenly realize real estate investing isn't always just that easy. You're going to drop off this thing, and that's more room for us people that are in it.
And I think one thing too that's going on right now is people are like freaking out because the interest rates are getting 6-7% in that range, and they're thinking, oh, this isn't normal, but it really is. The 3 and 4% was abnormal, and it's great for the people that either bought or refied during that time. They lucked out, but that is abnormal to have interest rates that low. The cycle we're in right now is more normal.
I owned a mortgage company for 20 years. I remember when it hit nine. I remember when it hit 9%. I think that was the high. It goes on fluctuation. We had a abnormally low because of the 2008 crisis, and then the Fed really took way too long to move. They should have been moving 6 months, maybe 8 months to a year earlier. But we're in a really weird place because we still have high job fulfillment according to the reports that come out of the U.S. government. We have these layoffs that are coming on, but they seem to be being picked up. There's a lot of businesses that are still struggling with. I think I was reading up in Boston. It's kind of a sample size, and they use it for the nation. And Bloomberg put out this thing saying a third of small businesses can't pay their rent or didn't pay their rent last month. And I'm like, based it in Boston, so I don't know what's going on in Boston, but that seems like a really high sample size to apply to the nation. But that's how they do these things. And so it's kind of interesting. Everywhere I go here, I mean, I still see jobs. I see people, they're teachers, they usually get paid fairly well, quitting to go to work for Amazon. So it's like, it's really weird. Normally during these times we have huge layoffs and everything else, but it seems like we have layoffs, but then plenty of jobs, and it's really kind of crazy. Let me ask you this. If you're sitting on like a, 2 or 3% mortgage right now, and maybe you have to move because of, you have a job someplace else or something like that, is it smarter to maybe try and rent that property out as opposed to selling it? Because you're sitting on a gold mine of a mortgage note.
Yeah, we would. I mean, we're house pack rats, right? We've got dozens of houses that we own, not homes. I don't want to act like we have all these homes around the world, but we have rentals, and there's single families that permit. So we have lots of those, and they're in commercial rates, so they're around 4%. So that's still, for commercial rate, that's good. And I would hang on to houses. If somebody had to move, I would hang on to houses. We have a tip too in the book that I had no idea writing the book last year how timely it would be right now. There's a whole section on a process that we have on how you can take over somebody else's mortgage without doing a credit check or without anything else. It's a thing called subject to. There's a process to it, but we go over how to do it in the book. We talk about it, and there's going to be a lot of people that, if they know how to play their cards right, could buy a house right now and take over a 3% or 2.8% or 3.1% mortgage, even though the banks are offering 7%. That's what you're listening to, going, the hell is he talking about? But that's one of the clever ways. There's a lot of clever ways to do things legally. You just have to know it's like anything in life, right? If you don't know, you don't know.
You don't know what you don't know.
So once you do that, it's something we've been doing for years. We've got many houses we've had for years that we've assumed from people that without credit check, without anything, and there's ways to do it, ways to keep the bank off your back and that kind of stuff, but there's ways to get it done, and we dive in that a little bit at our seminars, also in the book. So I had no idea how time appropriate that was going to be, though, right now, because I think that's going to be, if you want to buy a house, it's probably helpful to know, even for your own residence, like learn how to buy, even for your own residence, get the book and learn how to buy a house at a discount for yourself. You say, listen, I want to buy a house at 30 cents in the dollar, 50 cents in the dollar, or 70 cents in the dollar, and be able to keep a 3% mortgage. It's all in there.
That just made me think of something too. When you said you don't know what you don't know, it's kind of funny to me. Like when we do, for example, like our Facebook marketing, we'll put different ads up for this, that, or the other. And some of the comments that people make about, oh, well, she made $50,000 profit, but she's going to have to pay, a big chunk of that, the taxes, and 20%, what do you call that? Capital gains taxes and all that stuff. Now, when you structure your business right, and if you're doing it as a business, those taxes don't apply the same way. So it's, again, a case of you don't know what you don't know. So when you do get that education, it just is a game changer for people's lives.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. That's why you should order the book. Let's get a plug in, and we'll just do a mid-show plug. Order the book, The Birth of the Everyday Real Estate Investor, How Real Estate, Not Stocks, Creates Wealth. That's what we're doing. Talking with Glenn and Amber today. So people should buy the book. I would imagine with layoffs coming, Goldman Sachs, I don't know. I think he's right half the time, the CEO of Goldman Sachs. But they're predicting the recession will probably go deeper with layoffs, and that thing, their product or vehicle that you mentioned was Section 2. What was it?
So subject to it, just that's a
Subject to.
word that we use to describe it in the industry.
Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah,
so-
that might be a great thing for someone who's gotten laid off. I imagine layoffs are going to grow, but usually out of things like this, I mean, this is the time where we get the most innovations. Like, I'm sure that there's somebody at Twitter who got just laid off, and probably a group of guys at Twitter, guys, gals, that got laid off, and they've got a pretty good idea on the next big thing. That's usually how it works. VCs right now line up on those people to pick up whatever their things are, because they know that they probably have their finger on the pulse of something, and that's usually where we get the greatest innovation. Social media, Twitter, Facebook, LinkedIn, LinkedIn, all this kind of stuff came around 2008 from the big crisis, 2007, 2008, and so there's probably gonna be a lot of layoffs. And people are going to need to get off their houses quick so their credit doesn't get messed up, and there's places to step in on that. And anything you can do to grab it. In looking over your guys' website, let's plug a few things here. On glennandamber.com, you guys have got a podcast. Tell us about the podcast.
Yeah, called the Real Estate of Mind Show, and we have people come on. We talk, a lot of entrepreneurs on there, and different people that are in the industry. We learn about different ways to do the business, different techniques, whether it be using insurance to invest, or using private lenders, or whatever it might be.
Tax strategies. We're going to start having
storage,
a lot of our students on.
Oh yes, that's true. We just interviewed one of our students, so I think you should see on the website, November 11th, we have a new show premiering on YouTube, and it's also going to be on the Plex network, I think, whatever that is. We have the Plex network coming out, but we have a show called The Big Flipping Break coming out. It's an 8-episode show that we filmed.
That was fun.
during COVID-ish, towards the middle end of COVID.
Mm-hmm.
We took one of our students, and we actually had we had over 200 some people apply for it, and we took one of our students, and we took them from start to finish. We coached them the whole process, and we gave them all the money for the deal, the purchase, the renovation, the holding cost. We gave them all the money, and then we split the profit 50-50 with them. And what they didn't know is at the end of the show, if we liked them, we were going to become their private banker and always fund their deals. And now we do. They passed the test. And it was David and Alicia King, they were amazing. And he's a pastor, and she's a stay-at-home mom, and these guys really had what it took. It didn't have lots of money, but we wanted to help them. So we recorded the whole thing. And David's sister actually passed away from cancer on the 3rd episode or 4th episode, real young. And he had to battle through that, and they caught that all on, he was gracious enough to have that all be filmed. And it showed that life goes on no matter what, and you got to keep moving forward. And we had a lot of challenges in the show. I mean, we set them up for some things that were fake. Like, we had fake inspectors give them a hard time, but there was real stuff happening. Like their contractor didn't get a permit. Stuff, real bad stuff happened too. I think I love the show because it wasn't staged. It was all real. It wasn't a BS show like you see other networks that shows. You can tell they've done let's redo that when you're angry again for Ford. Let's redo that again. Can you be angry this time? Give me an angry face. Oh, shut up. So this is real what we do. We caught us live.
There you go.
Like really, really important to Glenn and I, whether it's at our workshops or the books or any sort of speaking engagements that we do, is authenticity. Because I think people see through that. Like, we're not the type that are going to go, flash fancy cars and fancy watches and high heel shoes. And I mean, I'd rather be in my tank top and flip flops, to be honest with you. But we like to keep it really real, and that's probably the biggest compliment we get at the home flipping workshop is, you guys just tell it like it is. Like, we don't sugarcoat anything. We don't sit there and say, like he said, this isn't a get rich quick scheme. It's hard work, but it's worth it. And, we tell about our failures as well as our successes, because we want people to understand, there is a risk anytime you do any sort of investment. So, if you do XYZ, there's a good chance you're going to lose money. Yeah. And hey, here's what we did when we lost money. So we just like to be really, really transparent and really authentic and really genuine.
That seems to be, if anybody wants to Google home flipping workshop online or on Facebook or online, I think in both Facebook and there at this current time, there's probably between 600 and 700 5-star reviews on each platform.
Wow.
And it's all 5-star. We've only had 1 or 2 lower ratings, and it's I think, and most people, we read them after the events, they're always like, "Man, you guys are real," because we're just the same way we're talking now, the same people we are on the stage. Doesn't matter if we have 1,000 people in the room or 2. Doesn't matter.
Yeah, I saw a post the other day that this guy was putting on, and he was talking about somebody else that's rather flashy online, and he said, "I'm going to start being flashy because that's what people want," and I think people want authenticity.
Well, I told you that.
They do.
And she came back to me and said, "That's not us," and I said, "Yeah, I couldn't do that."
I think people will see through that. Like if that's you, if you were a flashy person, then yes, maybe people are going to be drawn to that, or it's going to attract a certain type of people.
Yeah. I think that's more for the Kardashian Instagram crowd. I mean, you guys are doing business stuff and, normal human being stuff.
Yeah, I know the normal. Yeah, that's why I think that's why our book's about the everyday person, because that's I always say, that's because what do we say? We say our goal is to help everyday people build wealth through real estate investing, because that's who we are and that's what we did.
There you go. So on the website, glennandamber.com, you guys, we've talked a little bit about the home flipping workshop. Tell us about the Millionaire B&B Blueprint.
Yeah.
That's our short-term rental program. And actually it was, I guess, right before COVID hit, we opened our first Airbnb short-term rental. And it's in upstate New York in a normal neighborhood on a dead-end street. And we had concerns about it, whether it was going to perform well or not.
Nervous.
I wasn't sure about it at all.
It was across the street from our home back then.
Right.
So we wanted to watch it and see how we do.
But
there you go.
If we were to rent that house out on a normal basis, we'd be making $1,500-$1,600 a month, just as a regular long-term rental. And as a short-term rental, we gross between $3,000 and $4,000 a month. So we're like, okay, this is working. So we literally opened about a dozen more on top of that. And nobody says, "Hey, honey, let's go to upstate New York on vacation." So my saying that is it's not a vacation destination. This is, everyday neighborhood. So we want to open that possibility up to other people. So we put together a course. My son and I run that. We fired Glenn from that business.
They did. They fired me, Chris. They just said, "I want you to say,
cold man.
You cause too much chaos. Get out of here."
Yeah.
I'm like, okay.
I have a couple of friends that the wives have done that. Yeah.
So yeah,
they do create chaos, but
it's a great way to create that passive income, and the benefit of having, whether it's short-term or long-term rentals, is you get the cash flow plus you get the long-term asset. And people want to have, houses all over the United States or even all over the world. It's a great way to have that second home pay for itself.
Yeah.
We were in Europe a few years ago, right before COVID.
Right before COVID.
We went to a family vacation in Europe, and by the way, don't take 7 people to Europe together. 7 people for 3 weeks.
And
way too many.
2 young kids.
Yeah, 2 babies. Too much. Yeah. So anyway, that's a whole different story. But we stayed in Airbnbs, and that was sort of a little light bulb moment. We're like, huh. So when we decided, we said we should get Airbnbs around the world.
I just didn't think they'd work in a regular neighborhood that wasn't a vacation destination.
Yeah, but they did.
Yeah.
We've had them for over 2 years now.
So that course takes people from A to Z and teaches them how to start their own short-term rental business successfully.
It's kind of interesting. There's a lot of investment companies that bought up stuff, turned them into Airbnbs, and it seems like I was reading that one of their big portfolios is doing well, and I wonder if they're going to start selling some of their portfolio onto the marketplace and open up the inventory a little bit. That should be kind of interesting. See how that plays out.
I think we'll see what happens with the recession when it happens. Because the one thing, I wonder how vacation destinations will do. Where the reason I think we've done so well is that people travel there to New York for business, for family, for school, for basic, guys traveling through. They don't want to stay in a hotel because there's 3 guys on a job crew.
Mm-hmm.
They stay there. It's cheaper for them.
We had a guy that was test driving a brand new car, and it had to be put in the garage at night so nobody could see it. And just random, really weird, random thing, But again, people come there because they have to. They need a place to stay.
Yeah. So we'll see with the recession what happens if people stop the vacations. You never know. I agree with you, Chris. Although it's a really weird market. It's a very unpredictable, and no one. If anybody tells you they know what's going to happen, they don't know. No one has a crystal ball. And I think. We thought right before COVID the recession was going to hit, and all of a sudden it exploded. All of us we belong to some masterminds for real estate. We're all talking about, okay, let's brace for the recession back, 2020, and then literally 2020 was like, it's going to be terrible. It's going to be terrible. You sold how many houses?
Oh yeah.
We're like, What?
And people hold on to their jobs because they think of it as this like false sense of security, but they'll lay you off tomorrow if it's not going right for business. So there's really no security there. And I saw a post the other day that struck me, and it was like a list of, I don't know, 5 or 6 things. I don't remember all of them, but it was like, being an entrepreneur is hard. Being a stay-at-home mom is hard. Being a teacher is hard. Owning your own business is hard. Being in real estate is hard. Choose your hard.
Well said. Being poor is hard.
Being poor is hard.
Yeah, being poor is hard. Being broke
being poor is hard. Yeah. In fact, they usually take it the hardest because they don't have any other resources.
Right.
So they take it on the chin. I like that. You should guys make a shirt. Just about anything. I mean, anything you do is hard. Like sometimes I'll be talking to some of the young people in our gaming community, like, oh, that seems like a lot of work. And I'm like, anything. let me give you a tip, kid. Anything of value, anything worth having in this world is hard. So you might as well just put on your big boy pants and shoes and rock it.
I said the same thing in my events. When I'm speaking, I say anything in life worth anything was never easy to achieve.
Yeah.
So it's you just buckle up and know if you want to have wealth, if you want to have passive income, you're gonna have to work. It's not gonna be. I don't care what younger generation. Oh well, I'm gonna make a lot. Yeah, it doesn't happen overnight. I'm not gonna be handed it. You've got to work.
Mm-hmm.
I don't care. At the end of the day, you can say all you want, but you have to work. That's my opinion.
You definitely do, and plus security. Gives you security, especially when you've got long-term rentals or long-term, residual income. There's the tax benefits of it as well. You want to touch on that a little bit?
Yeah. Yeah, we talk about, in the book, we touch on the tax benefits. I don't, some people get lost in that stuff, and I'm not a tax expert, but just using depreciation alone helps so much.
Oh, yeah.
The house for 27 and a half years or something like that. So you can depreciate your houses, and it's a huge thing. I'm in our mastermind, there's people that get to the end of the year and say, look, I got an extra $500-600 grand I've made that I don't want to pay tax on. Well, let's get that reinvested right away into a piece of property, use the depreciation to reduce my tax cost. People don't understand. They're like, well, how are these people not paying taxes? Because legally, if you know how to use the system, you don't have to. You be smart about it.
Yeah, that's how millionaires and billionaires work, man.
Yeah,
they invest. There's all sorts of different ways to put money into a property, especially if you're buying over $250,000 or something. Another education program you can have on your website, no flipping formula. Let's get a plug in for that real quick.
Yeah, the no flip flipping formula. So that's a wholesaling course that we have. It teaches you how to wholesale. We actually made that right during COVID, so it has a section on how to do it right from your home with cameras and FaceTime without even having to go to somebody's home. But yeah, so that's the process where we take, again, you have a house for sale, Chris, you're a motivated seller. We come in and say, we'll give you 50 grand for the house, let's say. And I go find another investor, a cash investor, and I go to that investor and say, you give me 70 grand for this house. And the other investor runs the numbers and says, I can make 50 grand flipping this house. I'll buy it from you. So we go to the closing table, and essentially the buyer brings the money, brings the 70 grand. Mm-hmm. The seller, you would get 50 grand, and I get what's left over, 20 grand in the middle, just for making that deal.
Nice.
So that's a oversimplified way, but yeah, it's an entry point to get in. It's not as easy as it sounds, because it does require
find the deal.
Yeah, you got to find the deal. You have to grind to find the deal. So some people just say, "Oh, it's the easiest way to make money." That's not true. It's not the easiest way to make money. It's a way. And in the book, we do cover how to do it in the book. So the book's a couple hundred pages long. It's not just a little, 12-page fluff thing. It's really, we dive right. One of my best friends who I mentioned, Jeff Miller, in the he'll be happy he got a plug in here today. He likes to hear his name said. So he went to my office because we had a bunch of copies there, and he said he got he goes, "This is a real book." I said, "Yeah, it's a real book." The funny part is, I don't even have my copy yet. That's how fresh this is. My copy's supposed to be here today via FedEx.
Oh yeah.
I haven't even seen my copy yet. I've seen all the, all you wrote it, so I saw all that. But yeah, I'm waiting to see it. But he said, "This is a real book." I said, "Yeah, it's a real book. What do you think I'm doing here?"
Yeah. 272 pages, people. It's 10.4 ounces.
Yes, they delivered a whole pallet full of them to the office. My team's like, "Wow, look at these things!" But
yeah. I had that problem too getting my book with COVID. It was like really bad. The whatchamacallit ground to a halt.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
It was like I like to see this thing before it gets published, so I know that everything's right.
I know.
Right? I know. I haven't seen it. I know it's been selling. We got a review. I think it's brand new, but we got a 5-star came in the day, which I liked. I saw that. So yeah, I'd love it. If anyone gets the book and they like it, give us some reviews. We'd love to have that on Amazon. That's where it's primarily for sale right now. So
The other great thing about real estate, Chris, is that people don't have to quit their job to get into it.
Mhm.
Like, it can easily be started as a side hustle on a
I'd
very
say most
part-time
people do.
basis. Yeah, most people start on the side. I mean, there are the occasional people that, but even people that come to our home cooking workshop, we don't say, hey, go out and quit your job tomorrow.
No.
We do have a program where we help them make $100,000 in their first year. But and then once you start replacing your income, then you have some interesting choices.
Mhm.
I love that it can be started on the side, so it's not like all or nothing.
Yeah, that's the other beauty of it. I mean, starting your own business, that's a 24/7 job to start a business, and
Right.
a high failure rate. I mean, I've started 27 different corporations. There's sometimes you love something, sometimes you don't. Sometimes you make money at something, but it's not as much money as you could make doing something else, or the risk is there. Especially when you're running blue collar, you've got risk of somebody getting injured or something like that. There's all sorts of crap that goes into running a business. That's it's fun and entertaining. Sometimes entertaining might be the correct word, but the beautiful part is with real estate is just about anybody can do it. Everyone's bought a house. I mean, most people bought a house, so they know the drill, they know the value, and like I say, I don't think remote working is going away. I think if anything, it's going to expand over time. It seems like a lot of people working jobs are like demanding to work from home,
Right.
and the job market's really weird right now. It's a really weird kind of quote unquote recession. We're not in recession, but I thought we'd be in one by now, and it's really weird. It's kind of like
it is.
it's kind of like it's a hot. There's still a lot of money in the market. I think a lot of the people who get laid off, they can get jobs and get picked up, but there might create some opportunities in the market. And then I think they're going to create some interesting. The other thing I was thinking about in the middle of the show was what the interesting thing about the remote working and COVID and stuff, and people, like you said, moving out of big cities, is trying to create great markets almost everywhere because, instead of just being like the coastal stuff, where all the big jobs and people working on the coast and stuff, it really kind of probably reinvigorated the middle of the country.
It did.
Oh, that leads me. I got to tell you this story then real quick. The one of our students, Cece in Nebraska, she
Mhm.
came on to us about a year and a half, I think, ago, and she chose to keep working. We have a program where they can keep working, be coached by us, and all that kind of stuff. So we've worked closely with Cece. Cece discovered, she came to us, she's a teacher, she was retired, she has to work from home, she has MS, and she can't really get out of the house. She's having a very hard time. So she was sort of homebound a little bit pre-COVID, but then during COVID, it got worse. She is now, I think she's close to 200 grand in profits in her first
Holy crap.
about 2 years. She's in Nebraska, a town called, I think it's called Friend, Nebraska, with 900 people in her town. So I mean, how many houses can there be, right? And she's doing most of her work from home over the phone.
Wow.
FaceTime or contact her, shows her stuff. She makes decisions. We've coached her through all that because we give our students mindset coaches as well as real estate coaches, as well as business coach. We have our program is very, very thorough. It covers everything. And so I'm so proud of her. As you're talking about middle America, she exemplifies middle America. And here's a person that said, I am not done with my life. She said, I'm going to continue on. I'm going to make this work. She does it from home, and she's been crushing it. And I don't think she made the book because I just recently learned about all her success, and we finished that book up. We have a lot of student success stories in the book too that are similar, but hers is pretty unique because she pushed forward and does it from home.
That is awesome.
Flips from home, and I said, do you even see the houses? She says, very rarely. I'll go out once.
Really?
Really? Yep. She doesn't. She sees them over FaceTime and pictures and stuff, but she doesn't have to go, and she's flipping the houses. The real estate agent does the work because we're really big into telling people how to delegate. Not to do the, we should have mentioned that up front. It's not about doing the work yourself. It's about delegating. But she took it to a whole new level.
You'll make more money doing that.
Absolutely, yeah. You'll make more money for sure. And so she learned how to delegate right from her, and we coached her how to do that. And she took it to a whole new level, delegating with her phone and not leaving the house. And
look at that. We run our business here from Florida, and our business is in upstate New York.
True story. Yep, true story.
Here.
Yep, that's true.
I mean, remote work has really gone on a thing, and then you've got so much access to stuff between Zoom and video, and you can have people walk through processes for you and show video and like, what does the home look like? fact, there's a lot of technologies that are still coming out. I remember when I was a real estate agent years ago, there was technologies they were trying to do with the 3D virtual stuff, and they've gotten really good at that stuff now. When I was in the business, they was very first coming out. It was really awful. I mean, it just took so much data to download and process it. Half the time it would work on the website, but now, it's been a decade. They've really got crazy stuff going on.
Yeah, there's software that'll do like 3D plans of your house and floor plans, and then Matterhorn does, like, you take a picture in a room and you can do like a whole 360 view of it. Yeah.
There you go. Well, it's been wonderful to have you guys on. Very insightful. And of course, people should pick up the book so they can learn more and take advantage of the opportunities. There's always real estate opportunities. Give us your guys' plugs, your .com, so people can find you guys on the interwebs.
Yep. So go to www.glennandamber.com, and that's got links to our home flipping workshop, our podcast, our book, all of our social media platforms, the new show that's coming out. That's just kind of a central location where you can find out all of the good stuff about us.
There you go. And order it up wherever fine books are sold. The Birth of the Everyday Real Estate Investor, How Real Estate, Not Stocks, Creates Wealth. Available, just came out November 1st, 2022. Thanks, Glenn and Amber, for being on the show. We really appreciate it.
Thanks, Chris. It was a lot of fun. Had a great time.
Yeah, thank you.
There you go. And thanks, Monas, for tuning in. Be sure to go to goodreads.com/Chris Voss. See everything we're reading and reviewing over there. Go to youtube.com/Chris Voss, our big group, the 130,000 group on LinkedIn, LinkedIn newsletter, all those crazy things. We're doing a lot on LinkedIn, so you'll see us over there. Anyway, thanks for tuning in. Be good to each other. Stay safe. And we'll see you guys next time.